Prophet of thought. Open your mind.
Lady Cat, Lady Class, Lady Kendra, the unicorn four.
Open your mind.
You know. Thursday. Unicorn four.
Open your
Lady Class, Lady Kendra, Lady Cat, Lady Ling. The unicorn four.
Open your mind.
Peace, folks, and welcome back to another edition of the Prophet of Thought series right here on the old T.L.O.T YouTube page. I'm your host, X, of course, but you know that already. That's why you're here. Once again, we are back, y'all, for another Thursday night. Y'all know I just can't wait for Thursday night because Thursday night is the night we all are looking forward to. The night that T.L.O.T gets on here and drops some jewels on y'all, lay it out for y'all, the Unicorn 4, ready to lay down another excellent broadcast as always. Tonight, y'all, we're going to be talking about the differences between, as you can see here underneath, the differences between women and girls. Hopefully, you brothers have your pen and pads ready tonight so y'all can take down some of this stuff, especially you buffoonish, butthurt, bonehead brothers who kind of don't understand what's going on as far as women are concerned. You might just learn something tonight, my brothers. So I see Lady Ming down there, but I saw Lady Ming down there like 10 minutes ago. I see Lady Kendra, Lady Katz. What's good, ladies?
Good evening. How are you?
I'm good.
That's good.
What's good, Lady Kendra? Lady Ming, always the first to arrive.
How you doing? You exaggerating.
Always the first to arrive. I see you down there, Lady Classic. Always.
Good evening, sir.
Tonight, y'all, another Thursday night. Oh, last night, y'all, I don't know what the hell happened. If y'all was watching last night, y'all know we had Princella Clark on, and we supposed to have Corey Haywood on, and he couldn't get on for some reason. I don't know what the hell happened. But Brother Faulkner came on, and I had the Underrated Darkness on the stream while we was waiting for Brother Haywood, and then I just lost everything, y'all. I mean, just shit just went out. I mean, the power went out. It finally came back on. The power went out. It finally came back on like 30 minutes later. And then when it came back on, I didn't have any more internet. So I couldn't even come back on and kind of make do. So I just, I just freaking hit the showers and went to bed. So I apologize for that, y'all, last night. Because Brother Haywood was supposed to be on. I actually reached out to Brother Haywood earlier, because me and him, we cool. I've known Brother Haywood for a few years, and I apologize to him, and maybe I can get him up on the Unicorn 4 broadcast tonight, and maybe he can square up with y'all tonight. I don't know. He hasn't gotten back to me, so I don't know what's up, but I apologize for last night, y'all. I don't know what happened. We had a power outage, because see, I'm in the Queen City. And over the last couple of weeks, y'all, we have had some unprecedented freaking weather. I mean, we've been having rainstorms like every 2 days. We have like a 2-day storm. I mean, it'll sun up, it'll be sunny, and then it'll just rain straight for like 2 days. I'm hoping that nothing happens tonight, because actually it's storming outside tonight like crazy. So, I mean, and we've had some wacky, crazy, whacked out weather. And last night, I mean, the power went out. We had a power outage and everything just went freaking black. So, I apologize to y'all for last night. You know what I'm saying? I also want to apologize to the Underrated Darkness and Brother Faulkner, because they was on the line with me and everything just kind of went dead. And they probably was like, what the hell happened? But we had a power outage, because the storms have been crazy for the last couple of weeks. I don't know what kind of weather we have been having down here. Maybe it's the end of the world. I don't know, y'all. But I apologize for that. But oh yeah, also I did check some donations. I got a couple donations last night. I want to thank y'all, but y'all already know whenever you donate to me, I always, write you a personal email, because X always sit down and write you a personal email, whether it's 500 donations or just 5. I sit down and write every single one of you a personal email thanking you for your contribution, and also giving you my commitment that we will continue to bring you mind-opening content. Those of you who donated to the T.L.O.T machine last night, you know who you are, because I always hit you up. And I just want to say thank you. I always start the show like that. All right. Now that I got all the niceties out of the way, once again, tonight, we will be talking about the differences between women and girls. And also, God damn it, I must chastise you folks, as I always do, because you see this here. You see right about there. There's a thumb. You need to slide. We're going to do this again. We do this every night. I don't mind. Y'all my people. I like y'all. So I'll do it to you. I'll walk you through it like I do every week. You're going to take that hand. You're going to glide it slowly. Slowly. Right over that button. Get right there. Get that mouse right there and click. And you're done. We do this every week. And also, if you're feeling generous, let me go ahead and walk you through that as well. If you're feeling generous, if you look about right there, see that Streamlabs link? Drop a few coins in the bucket, okay? I need coins in the bucket. I need likes in this section. Coins in the bucket, likes in this section. Thank you. All right. Now then, ladies, what's good? Now, you ladies already the affinity I have for all 4 of you. The lovely ladies of thought. And when I think of womanhood, you ladies epitomize that as far as I'm concerned. I have a great respect for all of you. I have a great respect for every single member of the U4. So how about we start off like this? What is the telltale signs? Because we want to inform the brothers. What is the telltale sign to let a brother know that a female may not be a woman or a quote unquote real woman. Okay. No one wants to go. I must play my crickets.
Well, I guess I could start. I think the first sign is probably a girl who's too into herself and won't listen to anything he has to say. Like she'll talk a whole bunch about herself and don't ask him any questions, don't see what he's about, don't see what he, what his thoughts are on anything.
That's very good.
Another telltale sign. I mean, because I think we probably just come up with them and throw them out there as they come. But appearance-wise, the manner of dress, and does it go along with her age? And you may not know her age, but guess. Like the dress, I have, you see some women out here in their 40s, 50s trying to dress like they're 20 and 30. That lets you know that they haven't quite let go of their childhood. And from there, I would just assume their immature ways and thought processes and the way that they view the world might not have matured and evolved as it should by now if they still can't let go of some things like their dress, as an example.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we
Yeah.
can.
Fantastic and good evening, everyone. I'm not sure why it is that every time I come in, you can't hear me and I have to come in and out a few times. So I apologize for not being able to answer earlier. As to this question, I honestly think that a big difference between girls and women is that women have I'm going to say the best word I know how to describe it is there's a stillness to their presence. And they might be like, I mean, I'm obviously a bubbly, kind of person or whatever, but there's an underlying stillness. I find that girls are jittery. They can't deal with, spaces and conversation, calmness. They're always about what's next. Where's the livest party? Where's the biggest this? What great restaurant are you bringing me to? Look at my dress or my this or my that, or look at your suit or your this or your that. They're always up. And I find that women, they've dropped down to a stillness because they're no longer looking for what's next, what's the next greatest this, what's the next best this. They've already been there, done that. They've already, earned their stripes over life, over time, and experienced those things. And they can say, yeah, I've been there. Yeah, I've done that. I could write a book on it, but I'm done now. It's over. And I've gone through all that stuff. And now I'm looking for the next stage of life, which isn't what's next, what's new, what's exciting.
Is Lady Kendra back? I know she had dropped off. Are you back, Lady Kendra?
We can't hear you if you're speaking.
Nope.
Yeah, she may have to come out and in again. To go along with what Ruby was just saying, another thing, because it was a segue into what they're interested in, what they choose to speak about, and just, what's new. Just that simple question, what's new? And if the first place they're going is to reality television, or some other forms of gossip or something like that, you can already tell just in that they don't have that peace and that stillness that Ruby was talking about. No, they're not. They're not ready. Now don't get me twisted. I watch reality TV too. But shit, I'm ashamed, not proud. Okay? That's the difference.
You're ashamed, you're ashamed of your binging on reality TV?
Yes. Because I now have enough common sense to be ashamed. Because it's ridiculous. It's some ratchet bullshit that's sucking away all of your goddamn mind juice.
That's a very good point. Very good point. Well, Let me ask you ladies this then. Now, you ladies are in and out of the manosphere. You know how the brothers are, in this sector, and you ladies are on many brothers platforms, and your voices are often heard, and you often hear others' voices. So you're familiar with, the talk of, uh, the women like thugs, the women like jackasses, the whole kit and caboodle about what women like. Now, are those women who brothers often say like the thug, the drug dealer, the guy who plays PlayStation all day and has 25 baby mamas? Do you ladies consider those women to be real women? Could they possibly be real women given their preference in guy, or does that even matter?
I don't think that really matters. I don't know how a woman's womanhood is defined by who she wants or who gets her vagina wet. I don't think those have no correlation.
Mm,
Yeah, I agree with Ming. At the end of the day, the thing is, as much as there's a lot of focus on, well, women should choose better and women should this and women should that. But the thing that we've got to realize is that all human beings have underlying biology that drives them. So you can't always really control the people that obviously you're attracted to. And the thing is yes, there's going to be a certain type of woman who goes looking and searching for the bad boy or the guy who does this or the guy who does that, and none of those things are productive or would bring you growth. But a lot of women also kind of, their biology, yes, drives them. And as much as we think they're not thinking at all, they're just trying to get it wet or trying to, oh my God, his dick game. But at the same time, you've got to remember that there certainly are women who are giving men the benefit of the doubt. These men sell them a tall tale, whether it's true or not, about what they plan on doing. They don't have it right now, but they're gonna get it. They're gonna go for it, and she sees the potential. She sees the possibility in this man because he has it. He has, the underlying tools. It's just about him implementing it. So a lot of women get caught up in that trap. And that's something that really and truly I would say you could only learn from experience not to fall into those traps. But at the same time, I think a lot of us, a lot of good women will say that maybe even the husbands were in that place at some point where you had to take a leap of faith. You had to believe that they were going to get somewhere. They were going to be different or be something better, and they were working towards it. Are we supposed to tell women that unless, again, that basically these women that come out with their long lists of things that men must have already accomplished, are those women valid? Well, I don't really think they are. So if that's the case, and we're saying, hey, well, you're supposed to be building together and you're supposed to be growing together, then it would make sense ultimately that what she finds at the beginning is not what he's supposed to be at the end of the day. She's finding, almost like she's a piece of clay, he's a piece of clay, and they're going to build and grow and mold together. So I would say, if anything, you do find a lot of women who, they can't discern between the men who are selling them a tall tale and the ones who really are in just, building stages of something. But one way or the other, I don't really think at the end of the day that that has anything to do with girls versus women, especially because you know what, there's a lot of girls who will never pick that kind of guy because they're looking for someone to fund their life, i.e., sugar daddies, right? So,
Can anyone hear me now?
Yes, we
yes,
can, Lady
ma'am.
Kendra.
Finally. Okay. I missed half the show. Hangouts is janky.
Absolutely. Did you hear the question, Lady Kendra?
No, sir.
Um, well, I asked, we often hear the talk about how, women like the thugs and the ghetto guy and the drug dealer and the guy who plays PlayStation 10 hours a day. And what I asked was, do you ladies consider those women to be real women based on their choices in men, or does that even matter at all?
Um, is it a woman versus girl issue? Maybe depending on her experience or lack thereof in relationships. Um, from a woman's point of view, the man she picks is usually her father or her missing father if she didn't have one. Um, I kind of agree with what Ruby's saying. In a lot of cases, a younger woman, we'll start with a younger woman because an older woman's supposed to have more experience and know better. So from a younger woman, she may be seeing a man for who she thinks he could be rather than who he is at the moment. And sometimes she will, I think one of the things that women kind of get caught up in is trying to be the one to change a man into what she thinks he wants to be or what she wants him to be. And she will do all the right things for the wrong guy. She will do the whole I'm on your program type thing. I'm gonna hold you down. I'm gonna be that rock for you or what have you, but for the wrong dude. And if she does it long enough for the wrong guy, she'll be jaded because that relationship will end at some point, probably after children, probably after a lot of hardship, and her heart will be broken. And so the next man, this is where you get that list. This is where you get a woman's list. Well, he got to be this, he got to be that, he got to do this, he got to do that, he can't do this, he can't do that, because she's jaded and she's trying to protect herself from getting into that position again. Now, it's a faulty coping mechanism. It's not a healthy coping mechanism because it's not realistic. It's not really based in reality because, you know, rarely will you meet the guy who's everything, because if he's everything, you have to be everything to attract him. And probably she's not. If she's insecure or she's jaded or she's heartbroken, she's going to come into the next relationship with a lot of guards up and a lot of insecurities. And this is where you go into woman or girl, because a woman will learn from her mistakes and a girl will throw tantrums about it to the next man and the next man and the next man. Each man pays for what the previous man does instead of growing from an experience and saying, okay, you know, what was my contribution to that? Okay, it may have been potential in the beginning, but did I stay in this relationship too long? I probably did. After the first child, I went on to have 2 or 3 more, and I probably shouldn't have done that. You know, I should have seen the signs when they were presented to me, but I didn't want to see them. I wanted to see the good. I didn't want to see the bad. And I dismissed those red flags and I kept going past them. A woman learns from those things. And even if she becomes heartbroken, she'll nurse her wounds. And after X amount of time, she'll go back out there and she will try her best not to make the next man pay for the heartbreak that the first man that she went through with the first guy. And I hope that answers the question.
Lady Cats.
Okay, so with girls, I think when a girl is like more immature, she's probably just gonna look for somebody who's gonna whatever she wants him, and usually do that for her. So he might seem like more of a pushover, of course. And if she doesn't get what she wants, she's gonna throw a tantrum until she gets what she wants. Whereas a woman will probably want a man who's more secure in himself, and see like the whole thing with like I guess bad boys and assholes and stuff is that um sometimes they do seem more confident in who they are. And yeah, a lot of the guys in the manosphere will point that out, that a lot of these women they seem like they like to go for like the worst men or something, just because they're not like making $1 bajillion a year or something. But they never like point out, you know, cool, like really cool, laid back, mild mannered guys who are still very confident in who they are. Like I think women are more attracted to men who are confident in themselves and secure in who they are as a man, instead of trying to like, just get validation from a bunch of other people. So I think that's the difference between women and girls in terms of choosing men.
Mm. Well, the reason why, because often as men, we have a tendency, I think we get fooled. Well, not so much that we get fooled. I think we end up believing something that we already want to believe in the first place. Um, because I speak from experience. If y'all was watching the channel earlier this week, I put up a video and I spoke about, especially young guys. I mean, when you get to be an older guy, you get a little better at it. You can vet. Your vetting skills get pretty quick. But when you're a younger guy, you have a tendency to, number one, not vet the women you encounter. You kind of get based on what they look like, and as they approach, whatever they say kind of confirms what's already going on in your damn head. Because a lot of times as young guys, we think with our penises and not with our minds. And I put a video up, as I was saying, I put a video up this week because the shit happened to me when I was like 18, 19 years old. I met a girl, and I mean, she was built, okay? She was built like any 20-year-old, better than a lot of 20-year-olds. And when I approached her, she told me she was 18. So that just went ahead and confirmed everything I was already thinking right off the rip. Okay, I was already thinking from what she looked like, she had to be 18, 19, 20. So when she said 18, that just pretty much confirmed it and gave me the green light to engage further. Oftentimes we'll find ourselves caught up. All right. We get caught up in that, especially once we start looking at them titties and that ass and them legs. We get caught up, and we can be easily fooled. Easily fooled, especially when you're a young guy. You can find yourself easily fooled. Now, I say that to say this. Have you ladies ever, when you were younger, have you ever told a guy that you liked that you were older than you really were? And also, it's a two-pronged question. Have you ever told a guy that you were older, and did you appear older when you were younger?
Yeah, I told a guy I was older. If I appeared older, I doubt it. Especially younger, I was about 110 pounds, 14 max, 114 pounds max, with two bee stings. I always had a big booty. So I shouldn't have appeared older. But I absolutely did say I was. I had a fake ID saying I was 25 when I was about 15. Six, was my daughter born 15 or 16? So, and I went through the whole, go down to the Secretary of State. This was before pictures were stored in their database. So all you needed was somebody's Social Security card and birth certificate, and there you go. You got a brand new ID, a state ID. So yes, I did. But did I appear older? Not at all.
Oh, by the way, brother X, your
Yes.
story reminded me of my little cousin, and if I hadn't warned the dude, he probably would have gotten with her.
Mm.
So I saved somebody, I think.
Good.
But no, I
Good.
never told I never told anybody that I was older than what I was. And to be honest, most people think I'm younger than what I am. So I still get carded a lot. So I couldn't lie if I wanted to.
Next.
Well, I told everyone I was older. Um, from the time, I mean, I always looked much older than I was. So, I mean, when I was in the fifth grade, people thought I was about 16. And I stayed looking about 16 until I was about 15 or so. And then when I turned 15, suddenly I looked legal age, which here is like, I don't mean for sex, I mean for like drinking and whatever, which is 19. So I told everyone I was 19, uh, and I told everyone I was 19 until I turned 19, um, at the very least. And I did. I looked much older. I thought much older, and my interests were much older. So as a result, even from a friend level, I didn't have that many friends that were in my age group, and when I did, we didn't really have much in common. We didn't really have anything we could talk about. So I tended to make friends, and the people that I would be able to kind of relate to were always much older. I really never got carded for alcohol ever, going into bars, going into clubs, in general. I mean, even when the police would come by to do like random checks and stuff, they would walk right by me. They didn't even ask me. I never had a fake ID or anything like that. I just went out like I was 19. As a result, I mean, I would initially lie and tell everyone that I was 19. Back when I was 15, the legal age for being able to engage in sexual activity was 15. So ultimately, it's not like I was jailbait. But before I would engage in actually dating someone or doing something, I would tell them what my real age was. And then at that point, people would always be really surprised, and I would end up like I had a 4-year relationship with someone who was several years older than me, and we lied to everyone around us, like all of our friends and whatever. My friends thought he was younger, and his friends thought I was older. No one really caught on ever at any point and questioned what my age was, just because again my interests and my maturity level was always a lot older. So, yeah.
You ladies lying about your ages. I'm shocked.
Oh my God, Brother X, I started going to lounges at like 14, 15. I was in the lounge. I've been walking in heels since about 14, trying
Ladies.
to move
Yeah, so
faster.
for me, I never lied about my age, but dudes always thought I was older than what I was. I didn't so much look older as I carried myself older. Stuff I was talking about seemed older to them. Because when I was 15 or 16, I always had dudes in their 30s or 40s trying to get at me. It was always dudes in their 30s, or never their 20s. It was always in their 30s, always in their 40s, um, trying to holler. But I was weird because in a lot of ways I was very mature because I had to grow up. But things that kids supposed to do, your I call them your ghetto rites of passage, I never did them. So in a lot of ways I was mature, and in a lot of ways I was stunted. And boys was one of those stunted areas. So when a man that looks like he's like 42 is trying to come at me, I'm actually apprehensive. It wasn't flattering to me, it was scary. So because I'm thinking, well, don't I look 15? And if I do look 15, why are you so interested? And if I don't look 15, let me do something else to kind of like ease myself away from you, because this is like, I know you're a lot older than me. I know it if you don't. And like, you're a man. Like, I'm a girl. I can't even handle that. Like, I can't even lift that cannon. So it scared me actually. So when guys would come at me, it would make me nervous. So I would play it off. But then, like, if I would be on a bus or something like that, I would get off at the next stop or something, because I couldn't take the pressure. It was pressure to me, to come on. He's coming on to me like a woman, but I'm not a woman. I'm like a virgin and a nerd. So, like, I don't know what to do with that. So, however I was carrying myself attracted older men. So, but I didn't know what to do with it. So I never had to lie about my age. I was never in a situation where I wanted to. It was always nerve wracking to me.
Well, this is the thing. I mean, when you're a man, right? And especially a younger guy. I mean, I don't know. Well, I know some dudes that's like my age who still be trying to get at young women, but normally, you know, when you get to be an older guy, you kind of, like I said, you can vet. You can vet women quicker. You can have a conversation with them about 5 minutes and kind of get pretty close to how old they are just by the things that they talk about. But when you are when you're a younger guy, and like I said, thinking with your penis, you often don't care as much. Um, you like what you like and you like what you see. Like I was saying before, I mean, I got caught up in the mix, all right? And had sex with the girl up not just once. All right, I was sexing her down. Okay, I was sexing her down like nobody's business, and afterwards I was ashamed. I mean, I was ashamed. I was scared. I was nervous. I mean, I like went into like a panic almost once I found out how old she was, because I think I had just turned like 19, and I found out that she was like 14. I was like, oh my God, I've been sexing this girl down. And I didn't know what to do. I didn't know what to do. Always was paranoid. I thought the cops was coming any minute. I thought maybe her parents would be coming any minute, and I thought like that for like 3 months. It took me like 3 months to stop thinking like that. I was like this, and I said, phew, after about 90 days. But after that experience, I start vetting girls. I never believed anything a woman said concerning her age after that. I mean, it took me a while to believe. If they told me they were a certain age, I was like, I wanted them to go on their person, show me their license, all that. I mean, all that. I mean, I was just like, I never believed anything a woman. If she couldn't prove to me right then and there that she was a particular age, I just didn't believe her, because I was never gonna let that shit happen to me again. And I stayed like that till I was about in my mid-20s. But let me ask you ladies this. Are there women, okay? Because I'm gonna reference something that I talked to you ladies about before 2 months ago. Are there women who are older, say in their 30s, 40s, and maybe 50s even though they may have the age of a quote unquote woman? Are they not a real woman? Are they not a complete and matured woman, even though they may be 30, 40, and possibly 50? Are there a bunch of 30, 40, 50-year-old girls running around here?
Yes. And proof of that is in a lot of social media, you have a lot of women who are like in their 30s, 40s, 50s trying to get their daughter's clothing or age appropriate. They don't act age appropriate. they might be in the twerk videos sometimes. Yeah, there are a few of them out there that are very immature to say that they're like 40 years old.
Next.
I lost my train of thought. Your question was, are they still little girls even though they're clearly aren't in age? Um, I'm of the thought process that all of us are little girls and boys around here playing dress up, and what differentiates the men and women from the girls and boys is how often do we pull back and draw back on those experiences and allow that little girl and little boy to show up in place of us actually showing up for ourselves. That's what I think the difference is, because I can imagine that all of us could sit back and think of times where we've done things or made decisions that were less flattering. And it's a lot of times because it was usually out of ego or something else. It depends on how conscious you are of that past trauma or just something that can go back to your childhood. And you're out here making decisions as if you were still that child that went through that thing, good, bad, or indifferent. As you grow older, though, you start to put those childish things away and start rationalizing like an adult and making decisions from an adult capacity and not of a child. You start to recognize when that child voice is creeping back up in place of the adult one that should be speaking to you instead. For me, that's the only difference between girls and women is the ability to be an adult when it's needed and put that child away when it comes up for when it shouldn't even be there. That's what I think.
I think there are a lot of women who are in their 30s, 40s, even 50s, dare I say 60s, unfortunately, um, who who show up in their lives as girls. And these are the women who really have not, in my estimation, they have not fully realized both the power and the limitation of their womanhood. They
Mm-hmm.
have they haven't understood how powerful it can be. They haven't understood its strengths, its weaknesses. They do things like they don't want old to touch them. They get on Instagram and they have inappropriate clothing on. Just because you in your 40s or 50s, you don't have to be matronly, but there's, the line. I would never wear the same style of clothing that a 16-year-old girl is wearing because I'm 40. Even if my body is banging, you know what I mean? I don't have to dress in, a moo or nothing. Nobody's saying you have to be old, but we all know the difference when we see it. Um, I have to agree with what Ming says about showing up as a girl, making decisions as a girl. And see, it's not just the one or two times, it's when they do it the majority of the time. Every time you turn around, you're not making decisions. And one of those things with being a woman and really across the board with being an adult is the ability to take accountability and to take responsibility for your own decisions and take responsibility for how your life is going up until this point. Like you have to be able to step back and take inventory on yourself, how you are conducting yourself in your life, in your relationships. Everything can't be everybody else's fault. You know, um, you can't just rely on these superficial things to get by. Like you have to be able to make decisions like an adult and accept the consequences, good or bad. And if you have to take a L, then take it and move on. But girls and little boys who are walking around in grown people's bodies, they're largely unable to do that. They can't take L's, and they don't take responsibility for themselves.
So there's the way that I see it is this, that, going back to sort of the previous question, and when I lied about my age, I did constantly. But the thing is I've been
Shame
lying
on you,
about my
Lady
age.
Classic. Shame on you.
I
Okay.
know, but again, if I got into a situation where something's about to happen between the two of us, I'll let you know what my age is. Um, there's a very classic story that I will not tell here, but I have told in private about me doing that. Anyway, point is I've been lying about my age since long before the point where, oh, I want to drink or whatever. That wasn't what it was about for me. I started lying about my age when I was a small child. I used to lie in Sunday school, and I would pretend that when I was 7 and 8 years old, I would lie and say I was 13, because I wanted to understand this Bible thing. My parents were not into church, and I wanted to understand the Bible thing. So I would lie and say I was 13, so that way I wasn't sitting with the little kids coloring and stuff. I wanted to sit with the older kids and read the Bible and have someone explain the verses to me and explain the lessons to me. Um, so in that way, you look at the reasons why I was lying about my age, is because honestly, there was a maturity about me and a desire to be a certain way that my age category never vibed with. Now, the thing is that the large majority of people who are lying about their ages when they're younger, it's because they want to be grown. They think that being grown is I can do whatever I want. There's lack of accountability and all the fun stuff's up there, and no one can tell me what to do, and you won't be able to talk to me like this and all this stuff, right? And so they go and they rebel and they pretend that they are older than they are. They are consistently fronting. Then they get to the older place in life. um, that's the point where they realize, man, I should have enjoyed my teen years. I should have enjoyed this part. I should have enjoyed that part. It was actually really miserable, not doing all those fun teen things that I wish I had done. And then what happens? Now they do the exact opposite, and they wish they were older, and they pretend they were old, or sorry, they wish they were younger, and they start pretending they were younger, and they start trying to ultimately convince the world that they're younger. And so I think what happens is that you have a lot of people who are stuck in a lack of development from the point where they started saying, if only I was older, everything would be better. And then they get older and say, well, if only I was younger, then I could go back to being carefree. Ultimately, it all comes down to, I don't want responsibility. I want all the fun none of the responsibility. That is literally the definition of what childhood is. So really what they miss is being an 8-year-old. And ultimately, at the end of the day, you can't regress to being an 8-year-old. So they are going to be constantly kind of stuck in this place of immaturity, because they've never learned how to, first of all, just accept who they are, accept what life is about, take the hits for what they are, and those losses and that pain and the responsibility and the stress and the struggles of the age category that you're in, because we have them at all age categories of life, and then to also therefore celebrate the positives and the good things that age and would have brought you. One of them is wisdom. Yeah, sure, some of that is a little bit more freedom than you had as a child, but that's because you have a way more responsibility than you had as a child. And it's this matter of, and this is why it's not just a matter of them stepping up to the plate and doing one thing or doing two things or change the way you're dressing or whatever, because there's this underlying mentality that is going along with all of that. And they are basically stuck in a level of development that they don't even seem to realize that. The chronology as their ages have gone up and whatever, that they haven't actually grown and they haven't actually aged. But that's not a positive thing, and that's not a good thing, and it doesn't matter because the world looks at you like what your chronological age is. See, I stopped lying about what my age was when I turned 19. Why? Because at the end of the day, people start looking at you like you're an adult, which means I no longer am categorized by being 14 or 13 or 16 or whatever it is. I'm now being categorized by what I know and how I think and how I feel and how I rationalize. And so now at this point, the groups of people that I tend to get along with, which do still tend to be older than me for the most part, they are now not going to balk at speaking to someone my age because I'm 19. And so you can see that the underlying desire there wasn't, lack of responsibility and accountability and whatever. So I can literally see the difference between the people like myself and then the people, the people who just kind of wanted a good time. So yeah, they're going to lie about their age, but really it's just to get into a bar or something. And then the ones who lied as a global whole, they try to keep boyfriends or, who were like 30 and kept pretending that they were older, even though they went to high school still, et cetera, and kept getting caught in these lies and kept getting, really negative repercussions. And, I believe it's Kendra who said it earlier, these people who aren't learning from their mistakes and growing because all they are doing is saying, well, you know what, if I was older or if I was younger, then this wouldn't be the way it is. And keep hoping for something that's not going to happen.
Well, we spoke earlier because I had asked you ladies about the type of men that females often pick. Does that have an effect, or does that, kind of distinguish a woman from a girl? Um, I think that the decisions that some females make often distinguish them. Because as you grow older, you're supposed to, let me put the old supposed to in there. You're supposed to make more mature decisions. You're not supposed to think the same way at 30 that you would have been thinking when you were 13. And when you get to be 40, you probably shouldn't be thinking the same way you were thinking when you were 30 per se. I know when I was a young guy, and I'm going to tell y'all this story. Well, I actually had told y'all this story before, but I didn't go into details, but I'm going to go into details today. So you might want to put the young ones up for this one, folks. Fair warning. I had told y'all about a lady, right? She was I was 15 at the time, and she was about 40. She's like my mom's age, and she knew my mom's. She was like the friends with my mom's. And I had went to her house because, I've always been a handy guy. I've always been a guy that could do plumbing and yard work and landscaping and electrical and painting and all that stuff. I learned all that stuff from my old man. A lot of my mother's friends would ask my mother for me to come over and do things, because she's been good with my hands ever since I was a little boy. So I had went to her house, and did some yard work, trim the hedges, cut the grass, did some painting, some crap like that. And like I had told y'all, she invited me in. It was hot outside, and she invited me to come in, to get like a glass of lemonade or some tea or something like that. And when I went in that house, before that damn door closed, this lady was on top of me. She was on me, right? Now, my first reaction was to like push her away. And like I told y'all back then, she told me to go along with it because if I didn't, she would say that, I tried to rape her. Now, I didn't give y'all all the details. Now, when she said that, I actually was like, well, I haven't done anything to you, lady. My mom's. I haven't done anything to you. And she said that she would rip her shirt. She said, I will rip my shirt and I will scream out this door. And she made the gesture like, she was really going to rip the shirt and scream. So not only am I like afraid, I'm confused. I don't know what the hell is going on. I'm thinking, everybody's going to think I'm a rapist. What am I going to tell my mom? What am I going to tell my father? So all that's going on in my head. So I went along with it. Now, this is what happened. She told me, right, as we were standing there, we were standing right there, like in the foyer of her kitchen. And she was like, she said, take your pants down. And I did, right? And, she got her jaw game on, So she did that. And when she did that, she like kind of like fell back, like walked back, like, because the living room was like right off of there. She like, like walked back like to a couch, and she had on like a skirt, and she didn't have like no drawers on. So I gave it to her. Yeah, I gave it to her. Now, mind you, at the time, I was only 15, but I wasn't an inexperienced 15-year-old, okay? Because I lost my virginity when I was like 12 years old. So by the time I was 15, I knew my way around a vagina. And not only that, what she didn't know is that by the time I was like 15, 16, I had already screwed like 3 women that were like 25, 26, 24. So I knew my way around a grown woman's pussy, okay? I wasn't no stranger to it at all. It's just that it was being forced on me. So, of course, I gave it to her. But it was one of those kind of screwings that, the brothers out there can attest to this. You ever screw a woman, brothers, and you be like, oh, you was talking shit to me? Yeah, all right, yeah, yeah, yeah. Those ones where she like, oh, Jesus, oh, God, please come, daddy. It was one of those, okay? Because I wanted to make this woman regret that she had made me do this. You understand? Even though I didn't enjoy it, I want to make her regret it, right? So I made it my business to put her ass to sleep. In fact, I tried to break my penis off in her. I wanted to leave a piece of my penis in her, okay? Because I wanted her to remember that day. Because like I said, I was no stranger to a grown woman's pussy, even though I was only 15. And I think she kind of underestimated that. She thought she was just going to take advantage of a young guy. Now, after that, she was back at my parents' house a week after that, right? Because she was a regular there. My moms and them used to have big card games, 5, 6, 7 tables, people playing cards, and she was a regular. And she showed up there, all right? And she would see me, and she would be trying to sneak talk to me, and and I would be talking to her on the side of the house. And she went from, okay, now this is the point that I'm bringing the point home, y'all. She went from being the aggressive older woman till after that, she totally changed, because now it was, oh, why you don't want to see me, why you talk to me, I want you to come over, you should come to my house. She had actually asked me to come and live with her. She wanted me to come live with her. And I would always be like, nah, And this went on for a couple weeks, because she would be at the house every weekend, like sneak talking to me on the side, in the house, on the side of the house and all that. And the last time we spoke, she actually came to me crying like a little girl. And she was actually like, oh, I can't believe you're doing this. You can't do a woman like that. Now, mind you, this is someone who had forced the action. And my point is this. Oftentimes, I do believe that the decisions that a woman makes concerning men, especially concerning men that they have been exposed to their penises, I believe that that does have an effect on the decision making, because she went from that grown woman who used sex to impose to basically one of X's hoes. So, and I never did anything else with her. And I tell you why I didn't. Because, see, I had been through that before. I had been through that with a 25-year-old, because I had fooled around with a 25-year-old when I was like 15. And I screwed around with her for about 2-3 months, and she said the same exact shit. Oh, come live with me. You don't have to live with your parents, blah, 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 blah. And the reason why I cut her off, because she was too overbearing. So I had a lot more experience than this lady counted on. And see what messed around and happened. What she asked for, she got it. Okay. And when she got it, she didn't understand it. So she went from being this big old grown lady to acting just like a little damn girl. Okay. She was acting like a little girl from a week after that, then on. So I do believe that at times the decisions that women make concerning men are distinguishable from grown women decisions and young girl decisions. That is my point. Plus, I wanted to tell y'all that story because I had told y'all before, but I didn't, fill in the dots.
Well,
But,
my
go ahead.
thing with
Go
the
ahead.
story is you had a lot of rapists around here. Because
Yes.
25-year-old women, and even though you, from what you're saying, I'm gathering that you were kind of G'ing for the other ones, but not this one right here. They was raping you too. Because what would we
And
feel if
and I
you were
and
a
I
woman
love and I
with
loved
a
every
me in
minute
those
of
ages?
and I loved every minute of my sexual abuse. I loved every minute of it.
Well, like I'm saying, you may have been G'ing for it at that with those particular women, but okay. Case in point, you felt a certain type of way once you found out that the girl you was dealing with was actually a girl.
Yes.
Now she wasn't no more than 5 years younger than you,
Mm-hmm.
which is not that big of an age difference
Mm-hmm.
when you think about it. But I know that wasn't your point of telling the story, but it upsets me to hear about any kind of, because if you were a 15-year-old girl and the men had been 24, 25, they'd have said the men was preying on her, even if she was G'ing for it. They'd have said, well, she's too young to consent.
Mm.
So she's not consenting, even if she is.
Yes.
And especially in the case of the older lady, she just flat out raped you. That I call that arm twisting dub con, dubious consent,
Mm.
because it's like you put me in a trick bag to do it. You know what I'm saying? You ain't necessarily just holding a gun to my head, but if I don't do it, there are other consequences that you're trying to put on me, none of which I like. So it's just like, okay, let me take the quote unquote lesser of two evils here because I don't want to be caught up in other shit behind this bullshit. I don't know. That story always, every once in a while I think of that story and I'm like, it's a rape. And I hate hearing about stuff like that. I don't know. That's just me.
Well, Lady Kendra, the reason why I dealt, the reason why I often dealt with older women is to try to, well, believe it or not, a lot of those older women that I dealt with, I met them in places where I was, pretending to be older. So, I mean, and as a young guy, as a young teenager, I always kind of like had like older women who I dealt with. I mean, when I was like 15, 16 years old, I mean, I had girlfriends that were 22, they were 23. These are the women that I dealt with. So when I was 19, this girl, she was the first like girl per se, in the literal sense that I had actually like kind of pursued, only because she told me she was 18, you know, and I liked what she looked like. I mean, she was built like she was 20. So when she told me she was 18, I was like, okay, I can deal with this, you know. I can deal with this. What the hell is this calling me? God damn it. Who's calling me? Yeah, so I mean, I always dealt with these like older women coming up as a young guy. I always did. Um, this lady, and the crazy thing is, this lady here, I mean, she was like 40 years old. I probably would have, kind of been with her too. The only thing is that, she was somebody that knew my mom's. All right. She was like one of my mom's like cohorts. And not only that, she like forced it on me. It wasn't like, it was like something I wanted to do. I was checking for her. But no, it was nothing like that. So I did it. I went along with it because I was experienced with women, but I was a 15, 16-year-old guy. When she told me she was going to say, somebody raped me, then she grabbed her shirt, talking about she going to rip her shirt and scream and all that kind of nonsense. I'm like, okay, I'm going to do it. But like I said, she didn't understand that I wasn't just some inexperienced kid because, like I said, I lost my virginity when I was like 12. So I knew how to handle my penis, and I knew how to handle my penis with grown women. So wasn't nothing new. I knew my way around a grown woman's vagina by the time I was 15. So I pretty much showed her that. All right. Like I said, I tried to break it off in her, because that was my revenge. And it worked because she went from this grown ass woman to start acting like girls that were more my age. But the thing is this: many times women have, like Lady Ming, Lady Classic, openly admitted that, they have, fabricated their ages on occasion. Women do that, and they just don't do it to fabricate them being older. They also do it to fabricate being younger. And if they don't do it in the literal sense where they're 45 and they tell you they're 35 or 40, they often do it with where they are, where they hang out at, and like you ladies say, their dress code. So that being said, do you ladies think that, what do you think is worse? Do you think that a female lying about being older is worse, or lying about being younger? What's worse?
I would hands down say lying about being older is worse, because of the trouble that the guy could get into. And plus the trouble that you end up getting into as well. Trying to play grown is not the same as being grown, and you're really not ready for those circumstances, no matter how grown you may think you are or how fast you felt you had to grow up. However, I do see where Lion is saying you're younger can be bad, is if you're dealing with a younger person who wants to have children, perhaps, and you know good and goddamn well that you're too old to have children for medical reasons. Hell, some of these women already done started menopause lying about their damn age. But let's just say you haven't even started menopause. Let's just say you're just 40 and you're trying to talk to a young tenderoni, because I used to call them tenderonis, the younger guys, that's in his 20s. You can still have children, but the risk is heightened of those children having disabilities, learning disabilities and defects and things of that nature. So it's probably not advisable or that safe. So now you've lied to him and didn't allow him to decide if that's something he wanted to deal with, which is having children or not having children, before he got his heart involved. Sex might not have been an issue, but people's heart getting involved in circumstances and you guys aren't on the same page or share the same ideals or want the same things out of life is a real big clusterfuck. So that's the one problem I could see with lying about being younger. Otherwise, it's all the upside.
I
I think
100% agree with that.
you being. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Kat.
Oh, I 100% agree with Ming. I think it's worse to lie about being older, although I think both are pretty bad. I would still say being lying about being older is worse simply because you could get somebody in trouble. You could get somebody else in trouble and they might not have been, you know, trying to look for all that drama. So it's kind of unfair to that other person.
Yeah, I have to say, That's a line about being older when you're young is more troublesome. There are more serious consequences that come behind it. Lying about being young when you're older is just kind of pathetic. That's more so pathetic because I mean, really now, you know what I'm saying? Are you really gonna run around here straight up lying like you straight kept your face with a lie? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like where they do that at? Like at what point in life? So you just can't accept your age. So you're not aging
Mm-mm.
good, is what it is. Because you should actually, if you were aging well, you be proud to say that number. Like I'm such and such age. You
You
know, I
ain't
was,
lying.
you know, yeah, to read it and weep, shit, yeah. But if you done hit the wall real bad, if you lying about being younger, that's
That's
just kind
true.
of. But yeah, lying about being older, you can get a guy into some serious trouble. You know, him not knowing you 14, 15, and he 22. You know what I'm saying? His whole life can get ruined just on the accusation that he was with you,
Hmm.
even whether he was or wasn't. So that's actually more troublesome.
Okay, well, and my perspective doesn't really differ from the group in so much as ultimately, I think what it comes down to is if you are older and you're pretending you're younger, and you're dating men who are looking to settle down, that's probably the vibe they have about you is, you're settled down, you're wifey material, whatever, actual wife material, and you're at the place where you're maybe not past your childbearing age, but you're not in a safe category, then you're literally setting him up to build a whole literal life around you and to be very serious about you. And you can't give him maybe what he wants. And I think that that is, from an emotional, mental perspective, really damaging.
Hmm.
Likewise, if you are underage, and you live somewhere where you are literally the impropriety of touching you sends him to jail and puts him on a sex offenders registry, because they don't care that you lured him in and you lied about your age and whatever. Now he's a predator for life, because he was fooled by your ass and you look older than you are and you act older than you are, so he really believed you. Then you know what? Because this is more a mental, emotional, and literal, like his life and safety is now compromised forever, because you're a lying whore. So my issue is this, and again, I'm saying that as someone who lied constantly, I was a lie. Like I walked around outside of my high school and I was older than I was. But with that being said, 15 was legal. So from the time I turned 15, I was legal. Anyone could touch me, no one could go to jail for it. So there was that fact. I was not actually getting people in trouble. When I went to the States, I would actually tell people how old I was. If I was, again, it's the same concept, and this is what I think. If you want the general populace to think you're a certain age, fine, do you. It's the same thing I think with, for example, trans people. You're a trans woman, you want to just live your life as a woman, you're not going to disclose to the world, your friends and whatever, your co-workers, that you're trans. Do you, cool, no problem. When it gets into a position of dating where you're relating to someone and things look like they might be going well, hey, we want to take a next step, you have to tell people the truth, especially a truth that can impact their decision about you one way or the other, which is why it is that you're not living that truth. So if you are young and you are actually jailbait, but you know what, you're getting into the bars and you're living your life and whatever, and it's cool, and then some guy's interested in you, you guys are talking at the club, you seem interested in him, whatever, he gives you your number, it's your responsibility. You better disclose your age to that person and let them decide whether or not you are worth taking the risk. Likewise, if you are too old, it's your responsibility to let him know. Sure, you want to keep living and pretending you're 32 at the clubs, no problem, but he deserves the right to know that, you know what, you're not really actually 32. Because you know what, he before he builds a whole life around actually having biological children with you, he should know that he can't.
Hmm.
So I think that one way or the other, whether you're too young or you're too old, you better, if you are going to engage in anything with this person, especially on a sexual level, you better actually let them know what your age is. right? And so I think that from that perspective, this is why I think that this whole sleeping with someone 5 seconds into meeting them is not a good plan. For me, this worked out well because I would date first. I'm not going to just sleep with you right away. So I'm going to date first, and we're going to talk and we're going to get to know each other and whatever. And if we feel like, hey, this might actually go somewhere, we might want to move to some type of physical level, I'll be like, okay, wait, just so you know, this is my age. And not everyone took that so well. And some people took that like, not well, but like well, I really like you. I would never have guessed. Let's just lie to everyone. And or whatever. But I mean, again, the person who you are about to have some type of sexual congress with, they have the right to know before they put something inside of you. They have the right to know what your actual age is.
Funny, Ruby, what you just said at the end about the we'll just lie to everyone even though you know the truth.
Mm-hmm.
It's one instance I was in like that. I was only 16 and he met me at work. I was working at Burger King or something, and he was working at the bank, and we met up when he came there for lunch, and we started dating. And then when I told him that I was 16, he was shocked and was like, okay, well, don't tell my family you only 16. He
Mm-hmm.
was only like 18, 19 or something, and wanted me to just say, no, you can't say you're 16 that time.
Mm-hmm.
But before, other than that, I lied through omission. I never actually was asked, how old are you? And I said, oh, I'm 23, knowing damn well I'm 15. Well, because at
Right.
that time, if I had the 25 ID, I was about, because I got it from his sister. So I met him at 16. So I had to be 16 with the ID saying I was 25.
Mm-hmm.
But through omission, I mean, insofar as you thought I was of age because I'm in a place that only people of age can get into. So if
Right.
I'm in here, I must be 21 at least.
At least. Mm-hmm.
But it's like, but at the same time, I call bullshit a little bit on that because even if that is the case, my body isn't that of somebody 21 or older. It's almost like that little girl who was dancing for R. Kelly that he peed on. You can look
Mm.
at her body and tell that she was a teenager and not an adult. So then
Yeah.
let's say, well, what about the girls who are brick houses? Because they out here, I'm gonna pick my daughter up from school and these women looking like they 35 years old in her freshman class.
Mm-hmm.
But when she opens her mouth, you know she's not.
Mm-hmm.
You see what I'm saying? Like, so there, and I'm of the mindset that there are some things in place to where you don't have to go all the way down the rabbit hole. Now, granted, there are some girls out here who were young that got game like adults.
Mm-hmm.
They're out here. You could run into them. But the majority of it ain't no way in hell at 15, 16, I could carry a conversation like I was 25, 30. It's just not possible. I don't even have enough life experience to be able to do it.
See, and I think that's the thing, right? And that's where I say, like, I don't think that I was the majority, certainly, but I absolutely, because my interest didn't run to what my peers were interested in. They just never did. My interest, even
Mm-hmm.
the music that I like, just something as basic as music. But my interest, what I actually knew from an educational perspective, what I was actually interested in, I was researching on my own the perspective and how I would carry on conversations was actually older. Now, when you talk about the bodies, I don't know what it is, but like there's a period of time, like somewhere between like 1980, I'll say 1984, because I remember the year right ahead of us that was 1 year older than us. They looked younger than all of us, and I'm not sure why that
Mm-hmm.
is. And that happens sometimes. Like I think it's like every 2, 3 years or so, you have a generation of kids who are born as some they're just built old. Like they just somehow they get boobs and then within 2 years they just settle and they look 25 and you're like, the hell happened to you? And I'm not saying the fact that the presence of them being big or small or whatever, it's just the way that they sit and they're built. So I mean, realistically, if you really, really, really examine, you might be like, well, this is the problem. There's so much difference in variation with women's bodies. Like my boobs didn't do that thing where they drop, so you could like they'll hold a coin underneath them. That didn't happen to me until I was like 30. So you wouldn't have been able. That would have been a telltale sign. Except some people's bodies do just stay really young, and so I think that I kind of yeah. There are some girls definitely where they open their mouths and you're like, wow, you're an idiot, right? You must
Mm-hmm.
be really young. There are some girls and you just look at the way like their hips haven't spread yet. So it's not about them having no hips. It's about there's a way that your hips kind of open up for childbirth. And if that doesn't happen, you literally walk differently because you don't have a natural sway. You have to put a sway in your step before then. So yeah, there are certainly telltale signs, but there are
Mm-hmm.
certainly a few, like you said, that do kind of have it all or have enough of it all,
Mm-hmm.
that they can pass, especially if they're really good at certain specialized knowledge. So let's say you guys both have music in common. Well, that's what you're going to talk about the first few weeks at least, right? It's music. You're not going to find out that they don't know shit about something that happened supposedly when they were 17, quote unquote, until a little bit longer in. So, I feel it for the guys. I do. Because with everything that we've got going on, all the access we have to, makeup and this and that and body trainers and all these other things, it is actually, and the fact that we're black, really, at the end of the day, so black don't crack. They have a really hard time, I think, really truly differentiating because we've got a lot of grown ass children too. So if they've dealt with 10
Mm-hmm.
women and all of them are mentally 14, that's not going to look that different than a 14-year-old who's a little bit mature. So I think that they've got a bum deal in it, and this is why I say no. I'm sorry, he may choose to want to deal with you anyway. I never had a grown man tell me he didn't want to deal with me once he knew my age. He might not want his friends to know or his family to know what my age is because I can carry myself and I was fine and no one would ever guess. And he enjoyed speaking to me. But with that being said, it's you have to tell. Let him make that choice one way or the other. If he thinks you're worth the risk, then he will absolutely keep talking to you anyway. You'll put safeguards in place or whatever. But what you don't have the right to do is continue fooling him and allow him to touch you in any type of way until he knows what your age is.
Now,
Well,
my daughter's father knew I was only 15, though, and he was 21.
mm,
Mm-hmm. Right. Right.
We
And
grew
I.
up in the hood together. Me and his
Mm-hmm.
sister was in grammar school, same class. She failed a grade and ended up in my class.
Mm-hmm.
So we go from the hood together. So I'm 15 and you 21. What about those?
wow.
Right.
I ain't even
Uh-huh.
lying.
Well,
Yeah.
let me ask you ladies this. Just like Lady Classic just got done saying, she says that women have, females have all these things, the makeup and the dress and they girls have plenty of stuff to make themselves look older. Forget the fact that she may be 14, 15 and her breast is bigger than a 30-year-old's and her ass is bigger than a 30-year-old's, her legs, all of that, and she's tall and she looks like she could be 20 years old but she's only 14. Then you add the way she dresses and the makeup and all that kind of crap. So besides, and like you lady said, she may have some mature game. Because that's what happened to me. I mean, the chick had mature game.
Mm-hmm.
She wasn't talking that little girl shit. So if she happens to have all of that, say she's 14, 15, 16, whatever, and she's got the body, she's got the makeup, she's got the game. What else can brothers look for besides that to keep themselves from getting jammed up? I
Um,
mean, what?
Inconsistencies in her story or pattern in behavior, i.e., she may be in class or she has to come into the house at a certain time of night because she's still on curfew. Little things like that, as if you were looking for somebody who cheating. Same shit you look for on somebody who married and they sneaking and lying and cheating and everything. You can't meet nobody, family can't never come over their house. She's probably not of age. Because at 15, 14, that you can't do those things. I can't bring a boy over my house. I can't stay out or overnight with you, like that. I mean, I was able to pull some of those sometimes through lying and, my mother worked nights and then after that, the drug addiction. But for the most part, you can't pull that shit. And then I wasn't even able to pull it like that, so stuff
If
Yeah,
like
it
I ain't
that.
was.
never picked her up from work, that's a problem.
Okay.
You got
You,
to be able to pick her up from work to
hmm.
spring up at work where she said she work at for lunch and you see what that see
But
if
wait a
she there,
minute. I
nigga.
had a job ever since I was 15.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't even know if that
Yeah,
worked for
but
you. And I was a manager at a
I
record
don't know.
store at
Did you go to
17.
school? Did you go to
So
school?
I did, but
Okay.
I'm
Mhm.
non-traditional. So you see what I'm saying? Because of me
Mhm.
having a baby at 15. So that's why I stuck with the parent part. Because parents would be the biggest roadblock to any teenager's relationship, whether they're of age or not. It's always the parents. So the types of shit that parents won't allow them to do, like the staying out, like the you coming over, or the answering the phone and little things like that. The parents.
Mhm. Yep. I
Pay,
agree with that
pay
100% because
attention, brothers. Pay attention to what you are hearing,
Yeah, because you'll
brothers.
meet a woman like me who I moved out my house at 17, or I had a job at 15, I had a baby at 15. Like you can't catch me up with some of those. I had a fake ID that said I was 25 for goodness sakes. Like you
Mhm.
can't get me that way. Only reason why I was able to have anything is because, like I told you, my mother worked nights at the post office, but then outside of that, the drug addiction. Had I not had those things, the parents would have been the reason why I couldn't have got away with everything else because I was in my mind was on being grown when I was young. You know what I'm saying? So I had a lot of them bases
Mhm.
covered.
You know what a good thing would be? Because this is when, where were you when? So for me, for example, where were you when 9/11
Mm,
happened, for example? Because everyone remembers, right?
Right.
If you were grown enough, you remember
mm-hmm.
where the hell you were. And I could tell I was in high school, right? So I could tell I remember we were literally in high school. Classes got shut down. I remember a bunch of us went and sat
Mhm.
on the hill and like kind of like stared at the sky and just like looking for planes. It was weird. And then trying to call into New York. My cousins live there. One of my cousins went to school really close to there, so I was like, but where were you? What were you doing? Because the thing is, you're gonna say what you don't remember. You don't remember where you were when 9/11 happened, really, right? Or like questions like that where they're so specific that you could plan a lot of things. You could bounce out that I knew 1980 like the back of my hand. That's the year I was born, 1980. I knew that. I had a whole birthday, like to the point where I used it so much. I don't know what the hell I signed up for, but somehow or another it got confused in my information, and now I can't get my credit report because it says that it has the wrong birth date, and like I have to actually literally go and fix it because my birthday was September 19th, 1980, and I had that down. Now, if someone asked me something about what happened in 1988, I'm fucked. I can't answer that question. I wasn't 8 years old. I was four. Ask me something that happened in 1992. I don't know, right? But it's like you can kind of start catching people up because it's like if you weren't old enough to remember, if you weren't old enough to interact in that time, then there's absolutely no way you can answer that question. No matter how great your game is,
Mm-hmm.
there's no way, and you wouldn't have
You
prepared
know
for it.
what, Ruby? That is
Mm-hmm.
a really good idea because a lot of people like to do that that where were you game when
Mm-hmm.
something happened. It's funny because like a lot of these younger people don't even pay attention to history that much.
Mm-hmm.
That
Mm-hmm.
if you enough, they'll be like, the fuck is that? What is that? What is like my cousin? I talked about how my cousin tried to lie about her age. We're sitting up here talking about Aaliyah dying, and you know how Aaliyah is to black folks in the black community. Like
Oh, I could
everybody
tell
loves
you.
Aaliyah. She's all like,
Mm.
I don't know who that is. I'm all like, see, you gave yourself
See
away.
it there, but exactly,
Yeah, but that's
see
perfect
exactly,
example.
perfect. Because again, I was
Um,
I
Right.
was 17. I was in North Carolina. I know exactly where I was because everyone was
yeah, I
trying to
was
call
in
me all
college.
morning. They
Mm-hmm.
didn't know that because they Aaliyah's my idol. Like my lifeblood was tied to her. So everyone was trying to call me. They didn't want me to just hear it accidentally or someone who doesn't know what she means to me to tell me. So everyone was trying to call me all morning, so they could break the news to me gently, like it was my grandma or something. I remember fully. Where see, you're so right. Where were you when
And let's
Aaliyah died?
I want to talk about the real
Right.
quick the R. Kelly because they talking about R. Kelly in the comment section. R.
Mm,
Kelly is not the men we're talking about who were tricked by these younger girls. I went to
mm-mm.
Kenwood High School is where I went to high school, and everybody who knows anything about R. Kelly know that's his alma mater. And he would come up there regularly. Like it was like, oh, Rob up here because we had off campus lunch. I remember my sophomore year, a girl in line while we were getting our IDs made was telling me how she spent the summer fucking R. Kelly. Like
Wow.
it wasn't nothing. One of the girls he paid off, I went to school with. He not who we talking about. Like he knew
Mm-mm.
goddamn well that girl he peed on was a kid.
Dude, she was a
You know,
kid.
he
Like
was
her
poaching
boobs were
them.
still, her boobs had
Yeah,
barely,
she
they
had
were
bee
bigger,
stings. Yep.
but they were sitting so high up, you knew she could not have hit 13 yet. Like
13,
she was like 12.
13
Come on
max.
now.
Yep.
Right, exactly. You could tell. I could tell in the picture. She looked like a tiny little girl. She was built the way when she stood up, and I looked at the way I was like, that's a kid. That's a kid. What the hell is going on? The fact that he's not in
Mhm.
jail is still mind blowing. You know he's looking for children. He's a
So
predator.
let me ask you this, Lady
Mhm.
Ming. Are
Mhm.
you saying here on the old TPOT YouTube page,
Mhm.
the U4
Mhm.
broadcast, that R. Kelly was cruising the schools? Was he cruising the schools for a chick?
Yeah. I don't
Whoa.
know if he was doing it for chicks because I never was approached, but he was coming up to our school during our off-campus lunch. 100%, absolutely. And I was in
Hmm.
high. I went to high school in '92. Did I
Mm.
graduate? Yeah, I graduated 8th grade in
Mm.
'92. So, yeah, 100%.
Mm-hmm.
Shame on you, Mr. Kelly. Shame on you.
Oh, God.
Mhm.
Well, all I know is I'm not watching that tape. I'm not watching that
It's
tape.
legit kitty porn. She
Yeah,
ain't
no,
even no
don't.
16-year-old. She's
No.
legit 12, 13 years old.
No, it's fucked up.
Yeah,
Like,
because like I talk to some people and they'll be like, "Oh, the woman she looks like a grown woman," and then some people
Nuh-uh.
be like, "She looks like a little
no,
girl," and I'm like, "I'm
no,
not watching to see which one it is
no,
because I'm not into kitty porn."
no. If
Mm.
you've seen a 13-year-old girl who, yeah, she's tall. Yeah, she's got, like a little bit of, the little kids who are starting to develop bodies so they think they're hot. She's one of them.
Mhm.
Okay, no,
Yeah.
she looks like a little girl. Like
Mhm.
nope.
It
Yeah,
was in the body.
yeah,
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
you could tell she was young. Just her reactions, because I did watch the tape.
Mhm.
Um,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
just by her whole, her whole reactions, you could tell she was young, and she was inexperienced. She
Yes.
wasn't
Mhm.
just young; she was inexperienced. Because you
Very.
you can you can see that shit. That shit you can kind of see.
Yeah.
So I mean,
She
yeah,
looked confused almost. Like it was like
yeah.
literally like I don't know what I'm supposed to do. What does sexy mean? I'm not supposed to am I supposed to move my hand? Like she didn't know what the fuck she was doing. You could tell like it was a disturbing tape. Don't watch it. No. Just take our word for it. She was a
Yes,
kid.
yes. Don't watch it. It's very disturbing. It's very
Mhm.
disturbing. Um. Wow. R. Kelly. Shame on you, boy. Shame on you, man. Um,
Mhm.
well, women, okay, let's go here because I have these distinguished ladies on my panel. If a woman is say a woman is, let's say she's not, jailbait or underage or under the age of consent. Say she's 20, 21 years old. And she's obviously old enough to drive, drink, vote, go to the military, get a job. She's 21. She's old enough to do all the shit legally on paper, to do all that kind of stuff. But even though she's that age, well, let's say she's even 25. Let's say that. Let's say she's 25. She's 25. She's old enough to do all these things, but she's very inexperienced sexually. Does that play a part in distinguishing her from being a woman or a girl? I'll let you ladies answer it, and then I'll give you my take on it from a man's point of view.
So are we saying that if she's legally an adult
She's
or
25.
whatever,
She's
and
25.
she's running her life like an adult, but she's sexually inexperienced, does that categorize her as a girl?
Does that play a part in it? Is that something that should distinguish her between being a woman and maybe not a woman?
No, because the opposite is that she has had a lot of experience with men, and that wouldn't qualify her as a woman. Because there's a lot of little girls that have a lot of experience with men, And when I say little girls, I mean they show up in their life as insecure girls, but they're not inexperienced sexually at all. Some of them are whores, actually. So that doesn't, since it doesn't work in the opposite direction, it can't work in this direction. If she was inexperienced at a certain age, that just means that she just didn't have a lot of, maybe she didn't have a lot of opportunities to have a lot of sexual experiences with guys. I happened to have been married by the time I was 25, but I still hadn't had a whole bunch of sexual experience because prior to my husband, it isn't like I had a bunch of guys. So, I wasn't really like what you would call sexually experienced. Like I got all these notches on my belt or whatever. And, you know, but I showed up in my life as a woman. So that didn't have much to do with it.
Mm.
Well, I will say that a lot of people just seem to look at me like um, I know a lot about certain things, but in terms of sex and relationships, I can sometimes come off as I guess naive or idealistic, maybe.
Mm.
Well,
Rephrase the question for me. Do you mind just restating it for me again?
Well,
And I'll wait my turn.
I said that a woman can be 25, right?
Mhm.
She's
Mhm.
technically an adult on paper, but
Mhm.
very, very inexperienced sexually. Does
Mm.
that play a part in distinguishing her between? Does that play a part in distinguishing her from being a woman and maybe not a woman?
Okay. Go ahead, Ruby. Thank you.
okay. So for me, absolutely not. Because at the end of the day, all the things that make you a woman have nothing to do with how much you spread your legs or how good you are when you do it, or if you've given head or not, or if you've gotten head or not. None of that means anything. Now, certainly, um, could a depth of maturity come from you, say, having children? Sure, absolutely. I don't think any woman can say that she didn't change in some way, even if she was still young and immature and whatever, in some way from having a kid. Um, but from having sexual experience, absolutely not. You can be a virgin at 20. I mean, we could look at Rihanna and say, does Rihanna seem like an 18-year-old, the average 18-year-old that we expect? Absolutely not. And she's a virgin and she's incredibly sexually inexperienced.
Uh-oh.
So, sorry, sexually inexperienced. Y'all know what I meant. Um, but yeah, and and she is a fantastic example to me. I mean, you look at Cats. Cats is an old soul. So are you inexperienced regarding sex and sexuality and maybe relationships? Absolutely. And unless you are a really particular type of person, that means that what advice of matters of the heart may not be your forte, but being able to have advice or know exactly what the game plan is when it comes to sex and relationships, that to me doesn't make you a woman. So much more goes into the growth and development of a woman. And none of it at the end of the day is about sex. Many women mature and turn into women from the little girls that they are with a lot of sexual experience, and yet that had no impact and no bearing on them then turning into a woman long after they had already gained the sexual experience.
So I'm gonna keep in line with that because I agree that sexual experience or the lack thereof does not necessarily mean that you're mature or you're not. However, that's one frame of mind, but now I'm gonna go with devil's advocate and give another, even though I actually ultimately agree with that one. A case can be made that sex actually does play a huge role, or your experience or your lack of experience as it pertains to sex does play a huge role in whether a woman is mature or immature. Um, I found, if I just skim back in my memory a little bit, that a lot of the women who actually have a lot of the sex are actually the most immature. versus the women who don't have as much sex or are virgins in their maturity level. And I think the reason may be because when you're focused so much in one area, you stunt the growth of another. So if you're 15, 14, 13, 12, 11, whatever, trying to have sex as a kid, when you should be trying to figure out who you are and how you intend to relate to this world, you will find yourself in a very immature, having a very immature mindset as you get older because you have taken away some of those experiences that those that are mature, your peers, were actually able to have because they weren't focused on sex and boys and relationships and things of that nature. They were actually able to develop themselves and their studies and their interests and their hobbies and their skill sets. So that's just another different perspective of the whole discussion.
I agree. I agree. Well, me as a man, I uh I guess I kind of made judgments on a woman's maturity level um based on her sexual prowess. More so as a young guy, because as a man, once you get to be like 30, 35, you kind of change, you kind of evolve, and you turn into a real man. Most men will tell you that, you're not really a real man till you're like 30. Up until 30, you're just a kid playing games. But once you get to be like 30, 35 years old, you start to understand things differently, things that you didn't understand when you were like 18. And you often pass judgment on a woman's maturity, based on sex. Like the story I told y'all. I mean, I was like 18, 19. This girl was 14, and let me tell you something, boy. She was taking something that was making 25-year-old women squirm. Okay, so along with that, and along with the fact that she was telling me that she was 18, it just kind of reinforced probably something I wanted to already believe. I'll say that, I'll admit to that I wanted to believe that she was older, but the sexual activity, the sex that she was allowing me to do to her made her appear older, if y'all can understand what I'm saying. Um because if she would have acted a little more reluctant, if she would have acted a little more apprehensive, or maybe a little more afraid, maybe some bells would have went off, you know. But she wasn't. It was none of that. So I knew I wasn't the first guy, that she had sex with, or no crap like that, because she wasn't no virgin or no shit like that. So when you're a younger guy, the way you are with a female sexually will kind of reinforce what you already want to believe. All right. It will reinforce it, especially if she's taking it like a trooper. If she letting you do all the shit you want to do, and if she's telling you she's a certain age, and it's not that, it's not like these are some outliers. Because what put me in the mind of my own story is a story that I was reading about another brother who had went through it. And he was like, I think he was like 21, 22. And the girl had told him that she was like 19. Come to find out, she was like 15. She was like 15 and he was like 22. So, it's not an oddity. It can happen. It can happen. So let me ask you ladies this. Now, whenever whenever we have these kind of conversations, you know, people will often say, well, you should know, you should, these are the favorite words that everyone's been saying lately. These two words: choose better, choose wiser. That gets thrown around a lot on YouTube. And I had asked you ladies what a brother should look for. What do you ladies believe women, or should I say young girls, young ladies who are 13, 14, 15 years old, and maybe they do look older than they really are. But they're just girls and they don't want the attention. I believe it was Lady Kendra who was saying that she was young and she had like these 30-year-old guys hitting on her, right? So what would you ladies tell these young ladies who are maybe 13, 14, 15, and they got ass and titties and legs and they built like they 19, 20? What would you tell these ladies about what they should do? How the choices they should make? How should they choose better?
I guess one of the first things I would say is don't let all the hype go to your head. That's one of the first things. Because as soon as you walk down that block and one of them guys yell out, cat call you in some kind of way, don't let it go to your head, because that's the first step into you losing your way and starting to feel like your shit doesn't stink and you're the finest thing walking this earth. Because it's not true. um Focus and just stay focused on like your passions and your studies and things like that. I would not say anything that will make her feel shameful about her body, though. She didn't pick those titties and that ass. So I'm not going to tell her anything that's going to make her feel like she's the issue, because that's the fine line that you walk when you are trying to give somebody advice of this nature. You don't want to say anything that's going to make them feel like they're the problem, or make them go home trying to wish away something they have no control over, or setting up some sort of insecurities or things of that nature. But I would say dress for your body type, because that's something that we are not often taught. We go out and we find clothes that we think look good on a mannequin, or we saw look good on someone else, but it doesn't necessarily look good on us. And as women, as girls, one of the first things you do as girls is you have to learn your body type, what your body feels like. Like I told my daughter, know what your body feels like when it's 100% healthy, so you know when it feels like when you're not healthy. I mean, you all know why, but those are conversations we should have with all our daughters. And the body type is just so damn important. What's flattering, and what's not flattering. Um, and we should also try to help them build up a healthy level of self-esteem that's not easily manipulated by what other people think of them. A component of our personality is always going to be concerned about what others think of us. That's just human nature. It actually keeps us humble. It keeps us in our lane a little bit, but thinking about what other people are going to think about us if we did this, that, and the third. But it also can keep you in a box and don't actually allow you to get into your proper lane, because you're so concerned about what everybody thinks about you. Stop worrying about what everybody thinks of you. Can't nobody make you have sex sooner than what you're used to. And I mean that by men and girls. Because see, the boys don't pressure the young girls to go have sex. Their friends pressure them to go have sex. Stupid shit. You know what I mean? Because that's when you're young, we start out, we spend times in our gender groups, and our influences are our friends. So if one of our girlfriends or a couple of them are having sex and doing whatever, we feel they start making you feel like you're not moving along fast enough. Because I fell prey to that simply because my circle is older than I am. If I'm 39 this year, they're like 42, 43 this year, 44. So now I'm 15, y'all 17, 18, 19, 20, 21. I'm trying to keep up with you guys, which has made me go faster than I needed to be going. And with me not, and it's real hard to say, well, how's a person supposed to self-correct that? Well, a lot of that starts when they're young. So if anything, let's talk to the young girls. Let's talk to the mothers of the future young girls, because you're shaping and building their self-esteem at home. It starts there. You can't then want to try to beat the sexuality out of her when you help instill the shit when she was 4. You understand what I'm saying? So it's like, it's a lot of conversation to go around, but really those would be probably some of the things that I would tell her just off the top of my head.
Yeah, I agree, especially with the part where if like there are certain people who will try to make a girl feel uncomfortable about the way she looks. Like they got a lot of parents who will sit up there and be like, "Oh my god, look at her butt. Look at her boobs," or something like grown people talking about a child's body parts like that. And it just makes them feel uncomfortable. So I think parents could do a better job at just making them feel more comfortable with their bodies without like trying to promote that to everybody else. Um, and I would also say the problem with like I guess doing all that promoting is that it does kind of make the girl want to be more sexually active, or like the crazy mothers who will sit up there and beat the hell out of their daughters or something, but at the same time teach their daughters all this sexuality and stuff. It just makes the daughters want to go out and do it more, and then you wonder why the daughter ends up pregnant at like such a young age.
Um, I don't know. Even though I kind of, I don't know if I'm even the right person to give anybody any advice about it, because the way I handled it, I just sort of ignored it, and I uh, I just concentrated on like my schooling and other stuff that I was interested in, because like I said, I didn't want that attention, and I didn't have like a super big butt and big breasts, and like I never had a big butt anyways, which is weird. Everybody else in my family got one except for me. Thanks, mom. Um, but uh, still, for whatever reason, the older men liked me. I could never peg it. I never understood it myself. Um, and I was scared of them to a large degree, because I didn't want to be the one that I led some guy on or some dumb shit like that. Um, I just never wanted it to get past hello, because I didn't want them to think I was being too friendly. Because if you're too friendly, then you're going for it and you're leading them on. And then when I would be kind of mean and shut it down, I was all kind of bitches. So I really couldn't win for losing. So I just started ignoring it, which also made me a bitch, because I would just ignore it. Like, but I know that you're 42. So I don't want to talk to you. No, I don't want to come to your car. I'm definitely not getting into your car. No, you can't walk me home, all this other good stuff. So I just put my head down and like ignored it. I don't even know if that's the best approach though. That's just what I did. Um, but it made me concentrate on other aspects of who I was. I actually took the time to try to figure out who I was, because so many things in my childhood were chaotic and confusing. Um, that was the one area where I was trying to find stability. So I couldn't get lost in trying to get into this relationship and that relationship and sneaking out and having a boyfriend. Like, I couldn't even expend energy in that area. But that's just me. I had a weird upbringing. I don't know if other people have that kind of shit going on. So I'll just agree with Ming and say, don't believe the press clippings as they catcall you, because they catcalled like 5 other girls before you walk down the block. So it's not special. Just keep your head down and try to figure out who you are and get into a relationship when you're ready to.
Yeah, you know what? I mean, I think that my thoughts are along the same vein. I mean, at the end of the day, stop trying. I know, like for me, for example, when I was younger, actually, I kind of do it still with people. Um, but it's taking a lot of accountability for other people's feelings. Um, that dude's feelings and him catcalling me, like I was taking responsibility for that, like somehow or another, like, oh my God, well, I must be the person, like I have to respond to that. I have to, whatever. And learning that, again, he just catcalled like 100 women. He's just waiting for the one that responds. This dude just hit on 100 people in the club. He's just waiting for the one that responds, and so on and so forth. It doesn't make you special. Um, being the chick that got some, your friends might talk about it that way, like it makes them special. It didn't make them special. Being the girl who got to give that random dude head, or your friend head, or this dude at school head, did not make her special. And so if you just pause and you take the time to look around you, observe some people, because they're not going to be able to tell you. A lot of them either can't or won't tell you this truth, that it didn't make them special. What you got to do is you got to watch and see what happens to these people. They're going to give some guy head, and she's going to sit there and she's going to talk about the fact that this guy is special and this and that and whatever. And then when he doesn't call after a couple of weeks, she's going to sit there and pretend like she never cared. If you take the time and you watch and you observe, you're going to start to realize that if they are recruiting you to join the thought squad, it's just because they don't want to be alone, because misery likes company. So if you think it's cool because you're doing it too, then she doesn't have to look down on herself or reassess the choices that she's made. So, if you haven't engaged in any of this yet, stop and take a look around and look at how over sexualized everything is, and everyone is, and look at the fact that it doesn't make you special, nor has it made any of your friends or the people you know more grown up. It hasn't made them more glamorous. It hasn't made them more mature looking. It hasn't done anything for them other than, add bodies to their count, other than them being able to say the words, I got fucked last night. That's it. So if that's what you're looking for, some special thing, it wasn't going to happen for you. If you're looking to lose your V card because you think somehow or another there's magic on the other end of it, there's not. There isn't a special group of them versus you. The only thing that they know is what it feels like to have a penis inside of them. That's it. That doesn't make them inherently special. So I think that there's a lot that what you should be able to do. For example, if you can talk to a guy about condoms and getting tested, and so on and so forth. If you're at that place and you can have that conversation with this guy you're planning on sleeping with, then hey, maybe you're ready. If you can't, then hey, you're really not. And if you are embarrassed to talk to your doctor about getting a pap smear, or going for an STD test or asking those types of questions, hey, you're not ready yet. And so you need to gauge, as far as readiness, and being able to consciously go into these decisions of engaging sexually with people and starting a sex life. If you haven't been able to reach these markers, then you're not ready. Just because your friends haven't reached those markers, they weren't ready. And to be honest with you, you're not missing anything, because when you're having sex before you're ready, honestly, it's relatively lame in comparison to what you will be able to experience when you are ready. The older your body gets, the better sex is for you. That is just a biological truth. So I think that with young girls, they need to start recognizing that, hey, some people are recruiting them probably because they made a decision they didn't, they probably regret, but now, it is what it is. They feel they got to keep moving forward. If you're a girl, you know what, you made a sexual decision, you really regret it. It doesn't mean that now going forward, you have to sleep with everyone. Just because you're not a virgin doesn't mean you have to sleep with every guy that you talk to. You really don't. I swear, you can even date another 10 guys for long periods of time and not sleep with them. Just because you had sex once and you're ready to have sex with one person that time does not mean you're ready to have sex with this new person. And anyone who tries to tell you different is not the type of person you should be dealing with anyway, because ultimately there's a good chance that when you give it up, he's going to bounce. And the reason why he's going to bounce is because you're the type of woman who gives up on your ideals. And so now you don't seem as appealing as you did when you were standing your ground. That's another lesson you're going to learn. You probably want to learn some of these lessons without spreading your legs, because trust me, you don't want your body count to be up that high as you are accumulating bodies, right? For no reason, because you haven't learned the lessons yet. So I think that, young girls, again, learn how to become a person, your own individual person, develop your own confidence as a person, and recognize your place in the world as a girl, because you are a girl, you're not a woman. You and your friends might want to talk that way, but you're not really. You're still a girl, and it's okay that you're still a girl, and it's okay that you're still a child in many contexts. And when you become a young woman, that's okay too. If you can actually have the confidence to claim and accept your role and your position, and you're going to thrive in that, then hey, you might actually be in a place where you're ready to make some good sexual decisions. And that's great. But until you get to that place, just stop, observe the world around you, and recognize that, trust me, everyone else, while you're sitting there as a virgin at 16 and 17 and 18, you're talking to these girls around you who've had so much sex. Trust me, they're never going to say it, but they kind of really, really envy you. So just chill.
Excellent, excellent advice, ladies. Um, the only thing I would like to add to that is this. Frederick Douglass said, "It is easier to raise strong children than it is to repair broken men." And that statement also applies to women. It's easier to raise strong children than it is to repair broken women. That's why I think that we have to we have to reach these young folks. We have to reach the young brothers and we have to reach the young sisters, because people who are in their 30s and 40s and they still acting like they like 18, these people are broken and they probably not going to be able to be repaired. They're just not. If they're 40 years old and they still out there acting like they 19, they're broken, and they like 21 years behind the curve. So there's probably no fixing them. But when you have these young people coming up, especially young girls, and they're coming up and they're 12 and they're 13 and 14 and they're 15, and they're starting to discover their bodies somewhat, especially if they're developed, because when you're a developed young girl, you're going to get attention, you're going to get noticed, you're going to get noticed by guys your age, you're going to get noticed by guys that are twice your age. I mean, that's just the way it is. um, we know it's crazy and it shouldn't be that way, but that's the way it is. And I'm pretty sure when you ladies were younger, just like Lady Kendra spoke about, when you were younger, you had older guys checking for you, looking at you, watching you, trying to hit on you, trying to holler at you. That's just the way it is. So, the advice that you ladies just laid out a few moments ago, we as older adults and parents need to be telling our daughters the same thing. And we shouldn't be telling them that while they're 15 and got the boobs the size of a grown woman and the ass the size of a grown woman. We should be telling them that when they're 5. We should be telling them that when they're 6. We should be telling them that when they're 7. So when those moments come, when they're 13, 14, 15, and they have this 30-year-old guy pulling up alongside of them, asking them, do they need a ride? Or when they have this 20-year-old guy hanging out at the goddamn school like R. Kelly, checking for chicks who are 13 and 14 and 15, they'll already be equipped, because, see, they've been being equipped ever since they were 6, since they were 5, since they were 4. You understand what I'm getting at, ladies?
Mm-hmm.
And I think oftentimes we don't do that. I often say that we have a tendency to educate our children, but we educate them in reverse. The shit we should be teaching them, we're not doing it. And the shit that we shouldn't be teaching them, we're giving them a heavy dose of that shit. I think that those kind of things are part of the education of a young girl. And when I say young girl, I mean when she's 4 and 5 and 6, not when she's 13, 14, 15. Okay? Because, see, when she get to be 13, 14, 15, that's when she's going to start developing. And that's when all that shit's coming down the pipe. So she need to already be prepared for that when it comes down said pipe. I know that we live in a time now of media and everybody's looking for attention and everybody's on Snapchat and everybody's on YouTube and Instagram and Facebook and every damn thing else. Everybody's on it. Even those girls that are 11 and 12 and 13. And we all know that a lot of them, especially the ones who have jackass mamas who ain't really supervising them the way they're supposed to, and there's more than enough of those to go around. Now, you have these young girls who are on media, and they're trying to imitate other women. They're trying to imitate these women who are trying to be Snapchat models and Instagram models and all this kind of crap. So, do you ladies believe that media, number one, because this is a two-pronged question, do you ladies believe that media is responsible for some of this young girls trying to be grown women shit? And also, do you ladies believe that media, especially things like Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, and all that shit, should that shit be more regulated? Like, should it be regulated? Should you not be able to go on Facebook and show your ass if you ain't 18? Just like you can't vote or drink or drive a car.
I do think the media plays a part in how these young girls want to be more grown, and the reason why I'll say that is because, like, if you look at a lot of the sitcoms that were meant for children, like when I was coming up on Disney Channel and Nickelodeon and stuff, a lot of those teenagers looked like grown people. So, like, by the time I was like years old, I wanted to look like an adult, and I didn't look like an adult, and I still don't look like an adult. But yeah, I think that the media, there's also like certain parts of parties, you know, just living the life until you have children. Then all of a sudden they try to make it seem like life is hell. And as for the social media aspect, I really think parents should regulate their children more. Because even if a lot of sites have like age restrictions, but children still lie about their age on Facebook and Twitter and all that. So, you know, I think parents should be the ones who regulate their own children. But that's basically my opinion on that.
Next.
I'm sorry, could you repeat the question, please?
I said, do you ladies believe that media has played a part in some, in some of this stuff with these young girls trying to be quote unquote grown? And also, do you think that media should be more regulated? Should they not be able to even be on the media unless they're 18, just like they can't drive a car, they can't vote, they can't? Should it be the same way with things like Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat? Should it be the same thing?
Well, I would say absolutely media is playing a huge part. I mean, I think most of us can remember when TV couldn't do three quarters of the things they do now. Prime time was racy, not because there were like half naked people having sex at all times, but for much different reasons. I think we all remember the point where suddenly you could curse and the different curse words that you were suddenly allowed to use on prime time. Suddenly what kind of nudity could you show? Now it's okay for you to show the side of a boob. Now it's okay for you to show the side of an ass. And that's just on regular TV. And then you get to obviously social media, and you have these moron feminists fighting to be able to show nipples online. Like somehow or another, there isn't enough of a fight already going on our hands, that even the most innocent, or what could be seemingly the most innocent of platforms, like Facebook, are being used for our kids to circulate messages and pictures and so on and so forth that maybe we wouldn't like them having. Um, and yet you're fighting for it to be okay to show nipples on Facebook. So now they could post nipples in their little school groups and it will be fine. I think that there are a lot of people who aren't really recognizing the dangers and the power of social media, let alone regular media. And I think, to me at least, one of the top things that has changed our culture as far as the way that we dress and the way that we see it's okay for us to behave in the ways that we dress are music videos. It's something that I noticed. Like, I didn't have in Canada here, we had MTV. Or access to MTV, we had Much Music, and I remember we wanted BET and we didn't have it. And I remember when our cable packages finally were allowed to have BET. It was like 1997, and at first they kind of allowed us to have it for free. A lot of the American channels they allowed us to have for free for a while. And I remember watching BT and I was so excited, and there was wholesome programming on there. And yeah, sure, there was music videos, but anything too racy, they could only play after a certain hour. And then it just became to the point where there was less wholesome programming and more foolishness, if they were showing programming at all. And the music videos became more and more racy. And I honestly felt by the time I got to high school, I think it was the end of grade 9, that what the music videos were teaching us were to dress like whores and act like whores. Have sex freely, and don't worry about the consequences, because all you got to do is show this man you've been dating for 2 seconds that you're a ride or die chick. And dress like a whore so everyone knows what he's getting when he brings you home or whatever. And it was just this thing. They weren't pushing good music. They weren't pushing even music that was telling a story. They were pushing music that was literally programming us to behave um, differently, to behave like over sexualized biological animals only. So I really think that, because that's the point where I stopped watching music videos. I was done because I saw the messages it was trying to tell me, and I wasn't having it. So I really think that media overall has played a huge impact. The problem is, at this point, is that trying to ban people from media until they're 18 is a ridiculous concept, and it really is. And it would actually be, I think, really detrimental. The amount of information that we have access to, if it's used correctly, can be an amazing tool for our youth and for us as parents and educators and whatever, to be able to help our youth. The thing is that I think Kat said it, like, there's no parental supervision, there's no parental aid anymore. In we might put parental locks on the TV; those are easy to change. Kids figure it out in 2 seconds because they know all your passwords to things because they watch, and they get into whatever they want. But even if they don't take off the locks, unless you have them watching like Treehouse or something, they're going to see stuff that, honestly, it's a little racy. It's a little much. It's introducing ideas and concepts to them about sex and sexuality that really we wish that they had no business knowing at this point. So I think at this point it's chicken versus egg. Which one is first? Who knows? But the thing is you can ban them from media. It's not going to change where we're at right now. Media didn't teach them how to have sex parties or do the sex bracelets and all that stuff. That's not from media. They did that all on their own because we over sexualized them. So it's already taken on a life of its own. Now media is reporting what's already happened. And now that the world's over sexualized, Well, what do we do to fix it when it's rampant and it's everywhere? I'm not sure. I do know, I think that banning them until they're 18 is definitely not the answer. In fact, if anything, when you ban people from doing things, they tend to want to do it more and they tend to engage in it more and they tend to go looking for the worst of the worst things because you're banning them from doing it.
Hmm.
So, yes, I believe social media is having a huge social media, both are having a huge negative impact on our children. Do I think that they should, raise the age for the internet? Yes. Will it be effective? No. And here's why. It won't be effective because it's just as ineffective as it being at 13. If you know the year a person at 18 should be this, were born in, put it into the website and you off and running. There are things that are invented that gives a person or a parent, a household, more control over their internet. Xfinity has something called Xfi as an example, where you can control your Wi-Fi signal when it comes on, when it cuts off, things that can be accessed, so on and so forth. But even though those things are built, if it only works if a parent is there to utilize it and orchestrate it and make sure that those guidelines are being followed. Without a parent being there teaching their child, all of this shit is just going to implode. Because even if at home you're teaching your kid one thing or you're not letting them be a part of media or social media, that doesn't mean that their peers aren't doing it at their home, then bringing it into their sphere of influence, and then tapping your daughter or son into something that you don't want them tapped into. Just as an example, I remember my daughter being in like sixth grade. What we're talking 11, talking about dyeing her hair. Hell no, you can't dye your hair. But all the girls at school, and she's talking about the little Latina girls, they got their hair, their blonde streaks, nose rings. They're 11 and 12. They're in like, this was seventh grade. They're in seventh and eighth grade, but their parents are letting them do it, so she thinks that she gonna come home and talk to me and I'm gonna let her do it, and she was sadly mistaken. And I gave her, a real good talking to about how appearances and people judge off the appearance, and they will never get to the core of who you are because they can't get past all the bullshit. And if you say you're not like those girls who display all the bullshit, then why do you want to look like it? So we went into those type of conversations. But if I'm not there to reinforce it, if I'm not putting my life on hold to monitor, guide, and make sure that she has a life or my sons have a life, then I'm not doing my job. And no amount of restrictions in the world is going to stop a kid from getting to what they want to get into, because it damn for sure didn't stop me. The only thing that would have stopped me was a present parent that I didn't have. So that's what I think.
Um, you know, media, social media, mass media, does it play a part in what's happening? Yeah. It's like it just perpetuates what's already happening. Or I don't even know if it perpetuates it so much as it serves to fill a manufactured void with bullshit, and it fills it with bullshit. The manufactured void is the fact that for the reality for most children and parents is that parents are not the biggest influence or even the number two influence in their children's lives. They go to school for 8 or so hours a day. They're away from them for many, many hours because the parents are at work, the children are at school. And really the reality is you learn your most bullshit at school. Um, Even when you have dutiful parents, the fact that they have to work and they have to be away from the child for so many hours. And I'm going to go into a little something, but I'm going to tie it together. The fact that now the cost of living, unless a single income is rather affluent, you need two in the home. So even if you have a mother and a father, typically both of them need to work if they have children, because one income won't be enough to suffice for the needs of the household and all the people within it. And so that makes for a void. And the void is the void of the influence and the void of the value system that's being placed into the children. Because if the school system has my children more longer than I have them in a day, a month, a year, whose influence is stronger, mine or theirs? And since their influence is going to be stronger just by sheer numbers, then I have to work extra hard, I have to double time it to make sure that what I instill in my children actually is in my children. They actually absorb this. They actually, you know, um, are taking in my value system, what I want to teach my children, even if it opposes what they learn when they're not with me. So that void that's created is filled by love and hip hop. It's filled by whatever other, I can't even think of the name of the little shows and all that kind of stuff, Real Housewives, whatever the hell. And getting on Instagram, that's a lot for a young man or a young woman, a young girl who doesn't have a lot of input from her parents or anything to counteract it. She's going to try to act out being the next Amber Rose. She's going to try to do that. She's going to think that it's cute to get on somewhere and be butt naked, and just show her ass everywhere. And that's supposed to gain notoriety for her, because she doesn't realize that that type of attention is negative, and it's also very temporary, and it's also very superficial. So, yeah, it has a lot of influence, but it's manufactured, as is a lot of our circumstances.
Well, let me ask you ladies this, because we're coming to the end of the show. By what age, if you had to think of a number, by what age should a woman be acting like a woman? By what age minimum, as opposed to doing little girl shit, as opposed to grown women shit? By what age should that have started happening?
I don't know if I can pinpoint a definitive age. I definitely can say by certain experiences you should be a grown woman, like sex. Um, if you're not ready for grown woman, and I know this is like unreasonable, but if you're not ready for the ramifications of it, you shouldn't be doing it. If you're not ready to be grown, my daughter's father and I got pregnant the first time we had sex. So I had to have a kid, and after that, my daughter changed the trajectory of my life. I got a job, blah, 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 bought a car, moved out. The rest is history. That if I had not had her, I'm not quite certain I would have matured and taken on life the way I did take it on after I had her. She was a defining moment in my life and my family's life that pulled a lot of shit together. So I would have to say definitely you got to be ready to let the rubber meet the road if you're out here having sex where you will have to be responsible for another person's life. Um, I guess that the latest your ass should be an adult by 30, I guess. But again, I was an adult long before that, so I feel kind of phony saying that. You know what I mean? I think that you should start thinking, you know, as if you were an adult as you're preparing to become one. Because what happens, like I told my daughter, that when you go to college, it's a safety net. It gives you this false sense of security. And then as soon as you graduate, the rug is pulled from up under you and they push your ass out of the door and tell you good luck. Because in 6 months, now student loans are due. So you have to start practicing how you play. You feel me? My uncle told me that a long time ago. You have to practice how you play. So while you're here practicing, start acting like you're playing, because when it's time to play, you better be ready. So, guess that's what I gotta say.
I'd have to say early 20s, maybe like 22, 23 years old, at the latest, possibly 30. Um, the only reason why I stretch it out that far is because like I'm a millennial, and a lot of millennials, like I think a lot of us get stuck in arrested development. Like a lot of us are like, I know some millennials who are in their 30s who still act like they're in high school, right? Like, and it's a lot of them. So I would say you should at least have your stuff together, like maybe a little bit before you're 30. Um, and I guess when you compare it to like other generations, I mean, generations before us, they were, you know, getting married and having kids, like, and having their own houses and stuff by like the time they were 20, 22 years old at the latest or something. So I'd have to say that a lot of us would have to definitely mature more and soon.
Agreed.
Well, the way I see it is this. If you are Black in the Western world, you are born at a disadvantage. By the time you are, what, in the second grade, you are programmed into thinking that literally your skin tone, and anyone darker than you, but definitely anyone in your skin tone is dumb and ugly and a bunch of other things. So you already, from an implicit and explicit standpoint, you are battling an uphill battle, and you are literally, you're not at the bottom of a mountain, you are like at the bottom of a valley, of like the Grand Canyon, and when you get to the top of the Grand Canyon, you're just at the bottom of the mountain. So that whole concept of, you have to work twice as hard to get half as far is true. Life isn't fair. The fact that they look at our boys when they turn 12 years old, they actually literally see grown ass men. At the end of the day, they are the majority. At the end of the day, they are, in essence, running us. So, unfortunately, what it comes down to is we do not have the benefits of white privilege to allow our children to remain children, even in their childhood to some extent, because we've got to teach them harsh realities for them to be protected and make it to the place where they're adults. And then from there, our children don't have the luxury of being white, and therefore getting a pass, getting second chances, getting a lot of things that the average white millennial is going to get. So from that perspective, the way that I see it is, the latest our children should be adults is 18. And that's not to say you should drop them at 18 and go fend for themselves. No, but we need their development to be fully intact by the time that they are no later than 18. We need them to be thinking in an adult and in a mature mindset far earlier than the average, because without that adult maturity and mindset to be able to go through and weather the storms that they're going to get throughout childhood, throughout teenagehood, throughout adulthood, for them to be able to make the right choices in this really quickly evolving society, and these quickly evolving social structures that we can barely keep up with, even when it's in our own generation. I don't really see how they're going to come out the other side as successful as we'd like them to be. Um, so, and from that perspective, especially if you don't have anyone who's in your corner and who's fending for you and fighting with you, you've got to become an adult at a much earlier age. You've got to mature at a much earlier age. And now maturity, because I don't know why this is something that I guess culturally is understood from the Jamaican perspective here, but you can be grown up and at the same time, your elders are your elders. Your elders might be acting younger than you, they might be living younger than you, whatever, but your elders are your elders. You still show them respect. You still give them the credit of literally age. Anyone who's wiser than you give them the credit of wisdom. But at the end of the day, treating people with respect and situations with respect and authority figures with respect, irregardless of their anything, is something that needs to be built in. But again, to me, that's a maturity that you understand inherently with um, becoming an adult. But it's something that, again, I think that our children, our youth, need to develop at a much earlier age. And I think we are seeing the fact that even the ones who are developing on par with the rest of the millennials, for example, so, on par about with even early developers in the millennial age, they are still at a disadvantage to their counterparts. So we need them to get there faster. And that's it's an incredibly tough pill to swallow, because it's almost impossible to really do in this day and age. But yeah, it's something that we really desperately need, in my opinion.
I'm sorry, I don't even remember the question at this point.
Um, I said, by what age should a woman be acting? By what minimum age should a woman be acting like a grown woman as opposed to a little girl or a girl?
It's hard to put a number to that. Um, that's a difficult one to put a number to, because how fast or slow she grows up really depends on her environment and what's being demanded of her. If she's growing up in an environment where not much is being demanded upon her, then she can remain a little girl for the complete duration of her childhood. Um, I think that by puberty, a girl or boy should start learning adult lessons from their parents. Um, I don't think any child should remain sort of super naive or super helpless, after they get 12, 13, 14, because they're going to start seeing the world for what it is, or having different experiences, and they can't be sheltered. So they might as well be educated about the experiences or the things that they see, or the things they see other people doing, things that they hear, mainly because the parent isn't going to be the only influence on the child. So as the child gets older, like I said, into puberty or what have you, the education, well, the education starts before that, but the education changes as the child gets older to be age appropriate. And so by the time they get 16, 17, 18, they should have some rudimentary basic things under their belt. And those things should have come from some experiences. It should have came from their parents, lessons being taught, because you can't wait until they're grown to teach them grown lessons. It has to be preparatory. Up until that's the parent's job, is to prepare the child for adulthood. That's our job as parents. We have to prepare them for adulthood. It's not our job to shield them from everything until they get grown, because that really does them a disservice. So we need to educate them as best we know how. You don't want to overdo certain education, like, for instance, sexual education. Do you want to educate your 11, 12, 13-year-old on the basics of sex? Yes. Do you want to tell a young girl about her period before she has her period? Yes. She should know that stuff. That's just her biology. You should be teaching her that. You know, you can't wait until she has her period to tell her about it. You can't wait until her hormones are jumping out of her body to tell her how to handle situations with boys, or when she likes them, or when they come on to her, or what. You can't wait until the stuff is on them to give them the lesson. You have to prepare them for what's coming, because you've already been there. So you should have a roadmap for them. That's we can't make them reinvent the wheel every time. we have to set them up for, we got to prepare them so they'll be ready, have a mindset. Okay, this is what's coming. This is what's going on. And nothing is perfect. They're not going to perfectly follow all of your instructions. They're not going to not get in the shit. They are going to get in the shit. But the purpose of your educating them is to help them make good decisions when circumstances come upon them. Can they make good decisions? Did you do your job as a parent to help prepare them to make certain types of decisions? So, that's my answer.
Well, I'm going to say this before we get out of here. We talked tonight about the differences between women and girls. And I think some of the biggest things that distinguish women from girls can be summed up pretty plainly. Girls have a lot of energy, a lot of time, and they have a lot of fun. I believe women have a lot of sense, they have a lot of priorities, and they also have a lot of responsibility. Now, we as Black people, we've talked about this on this platform many, many, many times. We are probably some of the most over sexualized people in this country, and mainly our young girls, our young ladies. Like I tell y'all all the time, like 60-70% of young Black girls have been molested by the time they're 12. It may be up to 80% by the time they're 18. So we live in a world where us as Black people, we live, because in the Black world, these things happen. We don't like to hear about them, but they're true. So we live in this society of Black where many times our young girls, especially, and some of our young boys too, not as many, but some of them too, they are forced to grow up because growing up has been forced on them. It's been forced on them because as children, they have been exposed to adult things. So we can't judge them too harshly when they, quote unquote, try to be grown. Because that girl out there who's screwing when she's 12 and 13 and 14 years old, more than likely probably got molested when she was 6, 7, 8 years old. That girl who's out there who had a baby when she was 15, 16 years old, we can't judge her too harshly because more than likely she probably was over sexualized or molested or touched or whatever the case may be when she was 5 and 6 and 7 years old.
Yep.
So these adult things have been forced on these children. But at the same time, I think these adult things make them feel like they can accomplish adult feats, but at the same time, it stunts their growth because it forces them to do things that they are not ready for. Therefore, they go into it inexperienced, ill prepared, and ill advised. So I'll wrap it up with this. When it comes to grown women and girls, the first thing that girls should understand is that you shouldn't be in a rush to become a grown woman. Because when you become a grown woman, you're going to have a lot of shit going on with you that you never thought of. You're going to have a lot of responsibility. A lot's going to be expected of you. And you're going to have to be able to deliver on it or you will be judged. And I will say this to the grown women who wish to be 19 when their ass is 39. You probably don't want to be dwelling on that. You probably should be focusing more on who you are as opposed to who you were. Because if you're a grown woman now, that means you already were a little girl. That ship has sailed. That time has passed. So you may be wanting to focus on being more adult. See, just the opposite. See, girls and women are actually opposites because the little girls should probably be focusing more on being little girls than being grown. And those 30 and 40-year-old women who think like they're 19 and 20, they probably should be focusing on being more adult. Anyway, I want to thank the Unicorn for T.L.O.T, the ladies of thought, always laying down a good show all the time. And I hope y'all was listening. Brothers, y'all needed to be listening. And ladies out there, y'all needed to be listening too, because y'all just got some really, really solid advice from the lovely ladies of thought right here on this here panel. So, this is what I need y'all to do. I need y'all to go to the Proper Thought Series page on Facebook. That's Proper Thought Series on Facebook. That's the main Facebook page. We creeping up on 1,000 followers. Didn't know that. Didn't see that coming. But we are creeping up on it, folks. So let's go ahead and make that happen. Maybe we can get to 1,000 followers by mid-May. That would be nice. Make sure you also go to the TPOT bandwagon page. Send a friend request. We will click it fast. It'll come right back. And also go to the Prophet of Thought Series fan group page. That's the Prophet of Thought Series fan group page on Facebook. We creeping up on 3,000 members. I want to get it to 3,000 quick, y'all. I was kind of shooting for this month if I could. So we still got time. We can make it happen. Let's do it. Also, you can hit us up on WhatsApp and Instagram. And on the Prophet of Thought Series Instagram, there won't be no shaking naked asses or boobs. Just a bunch of my crap. But anyway, hit us up on Instagram. That's Prophet of Thought on Instagram. And also, we have a Twitter. That's at TPOT Media on Twitter. That's at TPOT Media on Twitter. I keep telling you, follow us on Twitter or I will haunt you in your sleep tonight. And also, check us out on the old TPOT website. It's www.don'teventryit.wikifoundry.com. That's www.don'teventryit.wikifoundry.com. The site is growing, y'all. If you go up there now, you will see the 4 unicorns. They all have their separate page and a little gift of the elements that I associate to them. So go up there and check it out. Like I said, www.don'teventryit.wikifoundry.com. You can see some good stuff up there. You can also see some X's bios. And if you go on the main page, you can actually dig into X's old Nubia Hood radio archives. I got quite a few good shows up there. You can check those out. And like I said, you can see a bio of the Unicorn 4 on there as well. And each one of the unicorns has their own page. So make sure to stop by. I want to thank my chat. I want to thank my moderators doing an excellent job as always. And I want to thank you for spending some time with us tonight, checking us out, watching us here on the old TPOT page. And once again, and finally, I want to thank the Unicorn for T.L.O.T, the ladies of thought, Lady Classic, Lady Cats, Lady Kendra, Lady Ming, always laying down a good show. And with that, I will leave you with 3 words. But before I do, let me tell you, make sure you have your black behinds here next week at the same time. But anyway, let me leave you with 3 words, like I always do. Open your minds. And we out of here, y'all.
Good night.
All right, good night.
everyone.
See you next week.
Peace, folks.
Only from T.L.O.T.